Prequels, prequels, prequels. We are surrounded by prequels. Everyone's doing prequels. Is it a good idea? We're going to talk about it. Let's go. Welcome back to Azart. My name is Nick, and I have Kyle here with me. Pecos with a 0 on Instagram. He's a super talented artist. He does a lot of our cool shirt designs at azart.space. Go check it out. But we are here to talk about the topic of prequels. We've just finished watching Rings of Power, which is a prequel to Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. We just finished watching House of the Dragons, which is a prequel to Game of Thrones. We are currently watching Andor?
Andor.
Andor, which
the
is...
the prequel of a prequel.
It's a prequel of a prequel. And we also been watching She-Hulk, which is not a prequel of anything. It's kind of in its own realm and world. But there's been so many prequels lately. And there's even more prequels to other shows. And just prequels. Are they a good idea? Like, we're just going to talk about it. Sorry, I've been talking about prequels forever. I'm going to give Kyle a chance to say something.
No. That's totally fine. Like, I mean, you have a good point, Nick. We're definitely seeing a proliferation of this stuff. So, like, I try to like think about like kind of different categories as to why and how prequels come about, right? And there's like three main areas that I just put them into. So, one is like a means of world building, right? Because like think about House of the Dragon, right? A lot of literary properties that get turned into film or TV series like have immersive histories, right? Like Game of Thrones has a huge immersive history. Like when we first get the Game of Thrones books, there's already this history they call back to about the Targaryens and like battles that happen, right?
Yeah.
So, what makes that history interesting is that it has these pivotal moments when the world changed afterward, right?
Yeah.
And so this element is like it's a cornerstone in many fantasy and sci-fi worlds, and audiences want to see those references expanded on and like depicted in their own story, right? And so like I feel like this is like an impetus for and also, if it's a great series, studios can ride the coattails and make a prequel and it be great with audiences because they've never seen it before, right?
Yeah, and it connects them to the previous
exactly
shows,
it expands
and movies, right?
the universe.
It's
right?
like, I could like this because Obi-Wan's in it, or I could like this because Darth Vader's in it. I could like this because what's another one? Dumbledore's in it, right? Because that's what the whole Fantastic Beasts is, a prequel to Lord of the Rings.
Oh, that's
not Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. Oh my God,
Harry Potter. That's I totally forgot about Harry Potter. Yeah. That's another universe.
Yeah,
that
so
they're expanding on.
It's safe for the studio. It's almost like instead of doing the reason why they like sequels is like, everyone knows the characters already, the IP's already established, so let's do, the prequels. But then you run into for example, the Star Wars prequels. And then sometimes you learn too much about a character, maybe like Anakin Skywalker, which you didn't want to know about because his character worked so good as a mystery. And another character would be Han Solo. We knew who Han Solo was. We didn't want to know some random guard gave him the last name Solo. Like we didn't want to know that. Like he was the cool badass we knew and we loved.
We like that they're a little bit of a mystery.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost kind of like Rings of Power. Like Galadriel was great in the Lord of the Rings trilogies and in the Hobbits too. She was very much like a mystery, and we knew she was super powerful and strong, but also respected by everyone. Like you can just tell right away, just when everyone's around her, everyone respects her either out of fear or love or something. And then now we're just like, this is Galadriel in Rings of Power. Like, whoa, this is different than what I kind of already had in my head. So
and that kind of brings me back to the other two categories I had. So we had world build, right? A means of world building, and then the other one is a cash grab. I mean, sometimes studios make stuff just because the property is a hot item.
What?
And they want to get it out there.
Wait, hold on. You're saying studios just make stuff to make money sometimes? What?
Nick, I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. It's a sad fact.
No, Amazon loves Lord of the Rings. No.
Now, like, yeah, like that's the thing. I mean, like, some movies and series like do so well that studios can't help but create something on
Mm,
their own or like from existing properties,
yeah.
right? And whether they make or miss the mark is dependent on the creative team
So,
and
what are some
audience perception.
really quickly? What are some prequels in your head that are done right?
Um, so I would argue that this is a prequel. Um, Prey. It recently
Oh,
came out
that's
with
the
Predator.
Predator.
It's a Predator movie.
Okay,
You could technically consider that a prequel because it's about the origins of Predator on Earth, right?
which is
Their
in the same universe, right?
yes, within that universe, right? I thought that was really cool. I thought it was an interesting take,
Mm.
especially with where he lands in like with a Comanche tribe. And also how they decided to immerse us in that is by they had an option to change the dubbing to the Comanche language.
Oh wow.
So it was all in Comanche and subbed in English, if you wanted to,
Mm.
which was awesome. And like it really kind of gets you in that place, which
Yeah.
is really cool. And then uh,
Obviously, I'm asking you off the top of your head. There's
yeah,
probably
yeah,
other good
yeah.
prequels out there. I do not mean to make it sound like prequels are a bad idea and they're all bad.
Yeah. Okay, and here's the thing. Prequels also change over time, I realize. I'll kind of get into this a little
Hmm.
bit. So the last category I was going to mention about why prequels come about is limitations in technology. If you remember, Nicholas,
Mm.
about Star Wars, George Lucas wanted the prequel movies to be the actual first three movies when the original Star Wars came out. But because of technological limitations, he decided that it wasn't feasible in, 1977.
I almost, I feel
Or is
like,
that not a good?
well,
Is that not
no,
like a shaky premise
no,
for that?
I can see him saying this, but
Mhm.
like I feel like Star Wars was a one-off movie idea originally. He can spout all he wants, I think, about prequels and this
Uh-huh.
grander world and stuff, but like
Mm.
originally, like obviously it's taken from so many other stories too. First of all, you can tell he was like, a study of certain types of storylines and the hero arcs. He was obviously very
Right.
influenced by certain movies and cultures and Space Odyssey to the Seven Samurai, and
Yeah.
and like there's so much influence there, but he has a problem, I think, of being a perfectionist, which is not a bad
Mm.
problem, but like even the
Mm.
idea, like the first Star Wars movies is held in high regard. Like you could have left it how it was originally and people would have been praising it, but he always wanted to go back and add more to it.
Right.
And I feel like once he had the power to keep adding more, that's when it kind of got too busy almost. And it's like
Mm.
the first couple films were inspired by Space Odyssey, which is very complex but simple designs, and obviously it's Space Odyssey as a race car, right? Because it's faster. You get the fast, ships and stuff like that. But like, and you know what? I'm talking. Wait, this is way too much focus on the Star Wars topic. This is a prequel topic. But like, I think what he did, like after it was all go, he was like he probably had an idea while making the movie, developing who Darth Vader was,
Hmm.
and like creating the Jedi and stuff. But I don't know if he had it all developed in the first movie because it wasn't like a book.
That's true.
It wasn't like he wrote a novel. Like J.
Right.
J.K. Rowling, she was already writing books and creating the world. Then they started making the movies, but she was still writing, and that was happening. So she has so much more to tap into. Where everything's based off of that movie in the Star Wars universe, which is incredible. That movie had to be that strong to create so much content. But prequels. I'm not a fan of prequels sometimes because to me, I think they ruin more than they do good in the long run. They
So
hurt. They hurt more than they do good in the long run. But for majority of prequels, obviously you have your gems out there that withstand the test of time. But like if you were to throw a prequel on a dartboard, not all of them make the target.
right. I Yeah, like I mean, there's something in that point, right? Is that like I mean, especially this year, I kind of like I don't know. It kind of seemed to me that people are trying to grab certain franchises
Hmm.
and own them as like intellectual properties that they
Yeah.
can milk, right?
Hmm.
For lack of a better term. But like it made me think like we may be witnessing like this marvelization event. So like this like transformation
Mm.
in cinema and TV where they're they're catching up to what's been done in print media for ages and in video games for decades, right? Where prequels along with sequels, right,
Yeah.
form multiple cinematic universes like the MCU, right? So like it leads me to think, like when I first saw the trailer for Andor, as an example, right, my mind didn't characterize it as a prequel or a prequel of a prequel. My mind said, oh, it's an expansion. It's an expansion of the universe.
Which
right?
they're doing a great job.
Right.
Compared to
And-
the other Star Wars stuff that they've been pushing, it's like, wait, who approved this? Because whoever approved the other stuff, like, how do they? Let's approve more like this. But
Right.
there's almost such bad taste in the mouth of Star Wars fans right now. It's not getting the views that it deserves, I feel like. But anyways, but yes, keep going. Yes, and
Right.
yes.
No. Yeah. Like I think that because I thought of it in the context of the Star Wars universe timeline, but I wasn't directly mapping it to the core trilogy, but rather like the events in that universe's history, right? I'm like, oh, this is before the Battle of Yavin, and this is and before the events of Rogue One, but after after the rise of the Empire, right? Like that sort of thing. So like I'm sort of getting this mythos space, kind of this body of like mythos that I'm able to draw from, rather than it just being like, oh, this is a movie after that movie or before or takes place before that movie, right? And then like also like I'm not saying that the term prequel is outdated or like shouldn't be used, but like that it's increasingly being used the same way as the concept of volumes are for writing.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So yeah.
But it's interesting too, because like technically, House of the Dragon could stand on its own, separate from Game of Thrones.
True.
With how well,
right.
but they just like, in my opinion, I just wasn't a fan of them shoehorning in Game of Thrones with the prince that was promised and the winter to come. Like I get that is the end of the Game of Thrones book series, right? That's like kind of in his mind, that's where all the stories and paths lead to that one moment, and then whatever happens from there. Maybe they have normal seasons in the world finally, because the Night King's destroyed. But
Right.
but but I mean, what is it? 10 years summer, 20-year
That's
winter.
right. I totally forgot about that detail about the world. Yeah.
But but it's just like, I feel like they were worried, like we have to somehow connect this to Game of Thrones other than dragons. You know what I mean? So it's like, we have to connect the Prince's Promise, so it's going to overarch. And it's like, it's like the one to bring balance again to the Force. And I was like, oh,
Right.
I just,
Well,
so scarred from the prequel movies,
So I would say this: if you're doing a prequel like that, I much prefer. So this argument is definitely lesser of two evils, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I would much rather have that. Like, oh, we're gonna tie in some like little like subplot thing, because it's not like if they made it front and center in the plot, then I'd be like, okay, guys, like what's I'm not even invested in this anymore. Like that's the thing. It was more of like a side thing.
Yeah, it's very much a back burner. It's just it's there just for the viewers to be like, oh, Prince that was promised. That's right. There's that Night King that the buildup was for one episode that they killed him in. It's like it's like it reminded you how bad that one episode was. It's like, oh yeah, and then Arya killed him because Arya was fighting him the whole season. I mean, the whole show, Arya was attacking him. No, freaking Jon Snow was like, oh, why even have the buildup or the stare downs constantly? The Night King would always be like, "What's up, bro?" Jon Snow, and Jon Snow never got to. Anyways, as you can tell, we love at least I love fantasy, and I rip on it constantly.
Oh, I do too. By the way, there's a fantasy series I'm currently reading through. If you guys want to check it out, or if you've already heard of it, shout out in the comments. But the Stormlight Archive, really freaking good by Brandon Sanderson.
Oh.
So freaking good right now.
Oh,
I'm on the third book. I'm on Oathbringer.
You know what? This may be a side thing. I might even cut this out of the video. But maybe it'll be fun to do book reviews in the future, even if it's just you going through book reviews.
Ooh, book reviews.
And then you can, and it'll be just a way, because you read so many books. Like we have the Dune series and all that. But anyways, comment down below if you want Kyle to do a book review on some of the books he likes to read. He's really into sci-fi and also fantasy, and he's a reader. I just read children's books like
Well,
His Dark
we could
Materials
talk
and Harry
about Old
Potter.
Man's War. We could talk, like we could go into some sci-fi, some fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So overall, though, do you think it's smart to keep making prequels? In your opinion?
So I don't think the question is, I don't think if it's smart. I think that it's if you're willing to take the risk.
Okay.
I think that's the right question, because like as we've seen and as you've mentioned, right, it is hit or miss.
Very hit or miss, right?
So that's the thing. As long as people are willing to take chances, we're going to keep on seeing prequels. I think. I think the 1980s are done with, and like people like sequels and prequels now because they like expanded universes. They like that content.
Here's they love the content. They consume the content. If you had to pick if they were to do a prequel or a sequel, which one would you rather see?
Ooh. Okay, we might have to cut this because I got to think about it.
Okay.
A prequel or a sequel I'd like to see?
Well, no, like if you like in on average, like not saying like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or whatever, but like if you had to pick, like in going forward in the future, if they only made sequels or if they only made prequels, like what direction would you like them to go? Would that means they always start at the beginning and then they go forward, or they start at the end and they go backwards?
Oh God!
Did I just really confuse you?
You know what? I think I'd like them. I think I'd like them to progress in a forward linear fashion.
So start at the beginning and just keep going.
Actually, you know what? Maybe not, because sometimes I get the sense that like if we start at the beginning and we go forward, that it's sort of like, I don't know. I feel that it has like entropy. Like narrative entropy, right? And it's like, they're going back to this thing again. But then again, that's if I'm not engaged with the content, right? So I don't know. Like that's really a tough question to ask. Now, if I was invested in it, sure, I think I'd like to see it from beginning and just keep on progressing forward. Yeah.
You know what's so interesting too? Sometimes with prequels, they'll do something in the prequel that's super cool. But it's like, wait, would that be even possible in the other movies? Like, or I guess they do that with other stuff in the past too. But like, it's tough, right? Because like once someone does something magically in the prequel, but then the person doesn't do anything that extraordinary coming forward, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? Even though because they thought of something visually maybe to do or something like that to make it look amazing, but then it doesn't line up. But this is just me griping about nothing that really matters.
Well, you know what I'd like to see a sequel to, but
Toy
this
Story.
Is a caveat. But this is a no. But this is a caveat. I'd want them to redo the original movie. It would be a sequel of.
Which one?
Ender's Game.
Oh,
I don't
really?
I think they did a terrible thing with Ender's Game. Which is tough because it's all kid actors and that can be hit or miss.
They need a revamp. Basically.
Revamp it because
a new
the
facelift.
sequels I think are so cool, especially Speaker for the Dead. That was for me, like that was a really cool book.
But what's interesting, we're kind of seeing that with His Dark Materials. So they tried the Golden Compass all by itself as a movie, right? Yeah. And it didn't do well after that, obviously, because they never made any other movies. But now it's picked up through HBO, and they're going to finish the book series.
Yep.
Like they're literally doing season 3. By the way, we covered it. We're doing the reviews here and stuff like that. We're going to be doing deep dives too. But
get in here, everyone. We're going to be talking about it next. No.
Come on in to our cave. No, that's kind of weird and creepy. This wall to our cave of fun and laughter. That's an echo chamber of laughter, everyone.
Stop, Nick. Stop.
I know I'm spiraling. Save me. But
let
us know what you think down below. Yay. Yeah, actually, let us know what you think down below. Is this even worth to talk about more in the future? Give us, you know what? If you're still here, awesome. That's amazing. Give us examples of your favorite prequels and your least favorite prequels, maybe. Because then that can maybe that can also, maybe I'll do a tally I'll do a voting thing too on our
Ooh, a poll.
A poll.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I'll do a poll.
Yes.
And the poll will be like, do you think they should stop making prequels? Yes or no? Is that simple enough? I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with a better question.
If you could influence Congress to pass a law and legislation.
But what about other countries? If you can make a law in the world, I'm just kidding. That's so fun because like we've just been going through his Dark Materials, and by the way, spoilers, we're gonna be covering the Land of the Dead and fun topics and stuff.
Oh,
But
yes.
there's a character there who's on a boat, but I love a line he says. He says, "You can't do a certain thing because it's a law." Just like it's a law. If I was to scoop up my hand with water and dump it out, it's a law. You can't change it. It's like a law of the universe. So if we were able to make a law of the universe to say no more prequels, anyways, you'll find it there. Go follow Kyle on Instagram. Pick us with a 0. He's a super talented artist, super smart guy. Go visit him. Let him know you came from Azar, and go to azar.space for audio, video links, and all of our fun, cool shirts we're making. Help support the channel, and we'll see you on the next prequel.
Dude, you stole that from me. I was like, I want to prequel this episode. Dude.